Hello everybody, it's Craftendo. Today I'm going to teach you how to create and manage boosts in Rayman Legends. We'll talk about the most basic stuff but also the most advanced. It's been 3 years since I've created a tutorial related to some of the boosts in the game. Not only was it not entirely detailed,
oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no.
But there is also new stuff to explain. So it's about time to update this video. I will show some signs that correspond to some inputs depending on the console you're playing on. Please pause the video if you need to. Anyway, without any further ado, let's start. In this game, you can go really fast, up to 20 meters a second, and there are various ways to get there, but there are also intended ways to get some speed. The first important thing is a Spindash. Spindash can briefly give you some speed. If you want to keep it, just add a jump to it. Now that you know this, you can exploit this trick by using it on downward slopes. If you spin dash on those, you get much more momentum. And if you add a jump, you can keep it in the air. You can do even better if you can slide on that slope. Just do a spin dash, press down, then jump for example. You can also press down in the air, hold it until you land, then spin dash jump to gain a lot of speed. This is one of the easiest ways to get momentum in this game. There are also bumpers which force you to go in some directions, but some of them are well placed and you can exploit them to get speed. Moreover, you get more speed if you do a ground pound at them. There's this great example in land speed, where you have this section. You can GP under this bumper to get max speed instantly. You can GP above a bumper but also under it, since the GP makes you get some height for some frames. Be careful, there are some bumpers which may slow you down if you already have a lot of momentum. First, before I tell you how to do any boost techniques, you need to know how to keep the momentum you will have to deal with. It's pointless doing a boost technique if you can't keep its speed in the long run. The first key in keeping momentum is during wall jumps. Just hold down before landing so your character looks down as well. Then, once you touch the ground, keep holding down and press the jump button. You will manage to do a wall jump. Wall jump is useful for two things. First, you need to know that any jump can have two variants, a big jump or small jump. To do a big jump, just press the jump button for a long time. For a small jump, do the opposite, jump for a little bit only. Now that you know that, you must know that a big wall jump will send you higher than a big neutral jump, making some jumps more doable. Secondly, you will keep much more momentum by doing wall jumps. The sooner you do your jump after landing, the more momentum you keep. Just be careful not to try to jump too early, otherwise you will glide without noticing and you will lose some momentum. Secondly, I advocate prioritizing big jumps rather than small jumps. You have to remember that you cannot keep 100% of the momentum when you do a wall jump, so the longer you stay in the air, the better it is. The next thing you should really avoid doing are Spindashes, because it makes you lose a lot of speed. If there are any bone walls or enemies, try to see if you can avoid it while still keeping your momentum. If you really need to spin dash at some point, hold down before landing. Once you land, change the direction input back to the direction that you're moving in and immediately press the attack button and jump. If done correctly, you shouldn't lose too much momentum. For the most advanced players, if you master all of this and want to lose zero speed after getting huge momentum, there's a tricky technique, the Framespin. Basically, after you jump, you need to spin dash horizontally as soon as you land. It's a frame perfect trick, explaining its name. They are quite hard to perform, therefore if you want to know what the most strategic places to use it are, here is some advice. Use it if you have to spin dash at some point, and use Framespins as early as possible in your run, because if you fail them, you can restart your run early, and also because you will keep more momentum in the early run, which ends up saving time. Now I'm going to show you the most basic boost technique in its simplest setup, the basic BrakeBoost. A BrakeBoost is a technique that gives you a lot of momentum. It's one, if not the most essential boost trick in this game, so you should really try to learn it. If you hold the run button without moving, during your animation, you will generate some brake force. It's basically hidden speed that can be triggered with a specific setup. Just find the timing to do a spin dash, meaning you press the attack button and move in a direction. After that spin, stop holding any direction to let you brake. Surprisingly, during that brake animation, when you're supposedly slowing down, you will trigger the brake force and it will give you brief momentum. Wait a bit to drain all your brake force, and once it's done, jump to keep your momentum. It's not the easiest trick to get consistent the first few times you try, but with some practice, you can start getting it consistently. Sometimes you won't successfully have the greatest momentum with it, which isn't something to worry about when you first learn it. It's something you will fix over time as you continue to use it more. Next thing is just to do what I previously said about keeping momentum, so that you can take advantage of the boost generated. Now that you know how to do basic BrakeBoost, I will show you the same trick but with other and weird setups that don't involve the run animation. We sometimes call these tricks SkidBoosts. There are plenty of ways to charge your brake force. Usually it comes after doing an attack and waiting for the animation to end. Sometimes we even force this animation to end earlier. We don't give names for all these setups, but I can describe all of them for you. First, you can do a kick landing to set up your SkidBoost. Just do several kicks in the air so that you fall while doing the kick. Do a timed kick after YBY, or be precise and do the kick as soon as you land. Wait for a bit and then you can do your SkidBoost. I recommend the kick landing being an up kick because of its more generous consistency. There's also a specific SkidBoost for bone walls. Just run towards them, and once you hit them, wait a bit and then you can trigger the boost. Waiting after hitting the wall is important because it's what lets you trigger the brake force, the pushing animation, like if your character wanted to push the wall. It's quite weird to learn, but once it's learned, it becomes very easy and useful. You can also perform a SkidBoost after a ground pound animation. Just to let you know, there are two very different cases, GPs and flops. When you do flops or YBY flops, just being YBY downward, you need to wait a little bit to be able to SkidBoost. The timing isn't that bad. But for GP, it's a different story. The window is really tight and you need to wait quite a bit sometimes before being able to release it. I really recommend practicing this one with GPs down on default heights. Just do normal GPs in the main lobby or the challenges results rooms for the GPs, or go in 5-3, the amazing maze invaded, and do a GP facing left after hitting that lever to practice this tiny bit section near the end of this invasion. Even for me today, GP SkidBoost can be quite inconsistent, but practice is the key in order to get them often. Similarly to basic BrakeBoost, if you land near a ledge and you do a ledge animation, you can basically do a normal BrakeBoost, but you can trigger the boost much earlier. It's not used that often, but it's always good to know. Next, here's the most important setup to make a SkidBoost work, since it can be considered useful for several setups on its own. It's the up direction cancel. In a few words, after an attack or animation, you can hold up for a few frames to cancel it and return to a normal animation. During that transition, you can basically do your SkidBoost. There are tons of examples, such as YBY SkidBoost. Just do YBY, hold up, then once you land you can trigger the SkidBoost. Up kick YBYs are even more consistent if that's not enough for you. You can also simply do it after a regular jump. If you have a holding hands up animation, things will be easy and the timing will be generous. If you don't have any of those, the timing is really tight and very inconsistent. This up cancel can also be used with regular BrakeBoost. This is more something for the beginning of a level or in your room in a level. You can hold up with a joystick to cancel any entering animation and instantly BrakeBoost. Remember, it only works with joystick for this specific case. There are usually alternatives such as doing the same kind of setups with D-pad, but looking to the left for 1 or 2 frames after the room started. I recommend you for any cases to do the directional inputs before the room or level starts, so you're ready to release it and set up quickly your BrakeBoost. If you haven't watched my YBY and YBY UP tutorial, I highly recommend you watching it right now, because I'm going to talk about the BrakeBoost YBY. You can mix the YBY technique with the BrakeBoost to get a BrakeBoost YBY. Just do your BrakeBoost, and when you start braking, choose a directional input and press the attack and jump button at the same time. This trick is very useful if you have a bone wall right after your BrakeBoost, for example. BrakeBoosts are very powerful, but they don't give you max speed. However, some elements allow you to get there. As simple as it may sound, doing a BrakeBoost on a downward slope gives you even more momentum and can even give you max speed if done correctly. The other way to get max speed with a BrakeBoost is doing it in a wind section. For some reason, when you do a BrakeBoost here, you will lose less momentum, so in the end, the brake force will give you more momentum. That's something very important to note, especially with the stuff I will talk about coming up. There are also types of BrakeBoost and SkidBoost, which include the Framespins SkidBoost. Basically, this is a weird case where you've generated brake force, but you don't have the opportunity to use it. Well, it seems there's a way to trigger it. If you do a frame spin and use the inputs of a regular BrakeBoost, you will release the brake force you stored. It's not really spectacular unless it's done in wide sections, which in this case can really give you some momentum without any slow setups. It's really one of these things that is almost never used, but it's always a flex to be able to do it. There's another way related to the brake animation to trigger the boost. If you have some brake force and you hold the direction for one frame, your character will do a brake animation and drain some of your brake force. It's really nothing when done normally, but if you do that when you're about to enter a wind section, you will keep your momentum that you generated and it will give you a lot of speed. What's convenient about this trick is that you don't need a lot of space to set this up. It's actually used in 2 invasions, 2-4 altitude quickness and 3-3 I've got a feeling, which isn't a lot, but hey, it's always good to know this trick exists. A BrakeBoost is not the only way to release a brake force. Actually, you can do it with a setup named punch roll. Its first use are in wind. After you try to do your BrakeBoost or SkidBoost, you can do a punch attack, just press the attack button, then you press down to do roll animation. If done correctly, you will do a punch roll boost. In wind, it's used because the punch roll lets you stay on the ground for a much longer time before you actually need to jump. Remember, in wind sections, when you jump really high and you fall really slowly, so punch roll allows you to delay that jump if needed. However, we realized not too long ago that it doesn't need to be done in wind. You can do a similar technique to what I've just told you about on normal ground to do a standing punch roll boost. The only thing you need to pay attention to is that the timing is extremely tight. You need to do your BrakeBoost setup, Spindash, wait for like 0.1 seconds, do your punch, and try to immediately hold down. This won't give you much momentum for any characters except for Glowbox, who can give you up to 18 meters a second. But I have good news for you. Even though this trick is ridiculously hard to learn, it's not very useless because there's a newer and faster version of it. Let me present to you the fastest way to get speed in this game, the Walking Punch Roll Boost, also called Walking PR Boost or WPR. For this trick, it's really important to bear in mind that you must do it with a joystick no matter what. So if you play with D-pad, you should really consider practicing a bit the game with joystick and getting used to switch between D-pad and joystick. To do a Walking PR Boost, just like before, do your BrakeBoost setups. After you do your Spindash, as soon as you're about to do the brake animation, instead do a walking kick. Just don't hold the run button while doing it. Press the attack button accompanied by directional inputs. After you do your walking attack, here's a crucial input. You need to immediately change the direction of your joystick to put it downward, but also tiny to the opposite direction you were looking. That's why you need joystick for this trick. We'll call that move the cancel input, because when it's done correctly, you will cancel your walking animation. After that, you will get a lot of momentum. Just wait a tiny bit to build max speed, then you can jump. This trick is far from being easy, and it requires a lot of practice. You will see at the beginning, you won't be able to cancel the walking properly. It means you failed the cancel input. If your walking is simply not cancelling, it means you need to put your cancel input direction more to the opposite direction you were looking, like in this case. If you turn back while trying to do your cancel input, it means your cancel input direction was too far to the opposite direction, like in this video. I recommend you trying to practice this trick when doing the walking PR boost to the right, because it's mostly in this case that you will use this trick. But then don't underestimate the difficulty of doing it in the opposite direction, because you will need to cancel the walking with the new angle required for the cancel input. That's pretty much all I can say about this trick. If you have any more questions, just ask me in the comments below. In this game, you can also get some speed with multiplayer. The easiest way is to perform the regular Coop Boost. You need 2 players, one holding up, the bottom player, the other jumping on it, the top player. The top player should also hold the direction during the first jump. As soon as the top player lands on the bottom player's hands, the top player needs to punch immediately if possible. After that, you need to wait a little bit and then you can jump. Thus, the top player will be launched with max speed. It's not really a hard trick to learn, you just need to remember of holding the direction for the top player. Once you've mastered it, the only annoying thing will be to jump early to get on the bottom player and wait the perfect amount of time after punching to perform your last jump. If you want a pro tip, you should also let the first player being the one holding up. Don't ask me why, but thanks to this, you will be able to trigger the Coop Boost 1 frame earlier. The size of the bottom player also matters. The shorter it is, the earlier the top player will land on the other player. 10C being the shortest, the fastest Coop Boost is with 10C. However, Rayman is also very fast because the top player can jump off earlier. Therefore, the 2 best options are 10C and Rayman. Nonetheless, Globox being tall, despite having a very slow Coop Boost, he will launch you much higher, which is useful if you want to reach certain high points. So the selection of characters for the bottom player depends on the layout of the level. This Coop Boost technique can be done in midair as well. The top player can do a Spindash big jump and the bottom player a delayed Spindash small jump before holding up. You would then perform a Coop Bar. It's quite difficult to learn it, to be honest, and not that useful anymore. I will teach you an important trick that has nothing to do with boot at first, but will end up being quite important, the Coop Zip. Basically, if you have a bottom character who's a Globox, you can do a weird trick called a Coop Zip. The Globox needs to face the opposite direction of where the player will be teleported. Then he needs to turn back and then hold up. During that time, the top player needs to jump. Like this, the top player will be teleported much further away. If any character doesn't do anything, the top player will eventually be TP back on Globox. If one of them doesn't attack, the top player is definitely teleported away. Sometimes it's better that the bottom player does the attack, so the top player isn't affected by any attack. But sometimes it's better that it's the top player who does the attack, because you can ground pound and so the top player will instantly GP after being teleported. That being said, you can combine the Coop Boost and the Coop Zip techniques to do the Coop Zip Boost. Basically, the top player has to jump and kick while holding right. Meanwhile, the Globox needs to turn back, twice if needed, like at the beginning of a land speed, then he needs to hold up. After that, the first player will be teleported away and will have max speed. This makes the strongest technique to get max speed. If you need an idea of the order of what are the fastest ways to get max speed, here it is. The only drawback of walking PR boost is that it needs a lot of space to set it up, so if there's a hill at the beginning of a land speed, for example, it won't be possible to get max speed with WPR. For Coop Zip Boost, be careful of where you use it. If the player gets teleported in walls or ground, it will instantly die. So there are sometimes some layouts where you can't use this trick. Therefore, in some layouts, Coop Boost and Coop Bar are just better. Nonetheless, Coop Boost has an enormous drawback. It is that if there's a bond wall at the beginning of a land speed, you just can't go through it. If you do any other techniques, you will either go through it or just break it. So the choice of the boost used really depends on the situation. It takes some time for the players to adapt to every of these. Alright, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was well explained and it will help you. Feel free to ask me in the comments or in Discord if you have any questions with some tricks. I will answer all of you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This video took me a lot of effort, so I would really appreciate that. Also, huge thanks to Togging for helping me doing the script for today's video. He usually helps me checking my script, and today I really wanted to take the time to thank him for that. Anyway, see you guys. Take care.